You are on the journey of business. An entrepreneur and innovator who spent a lifetime of advising from behind the scenes, building businesses through word of mouth and referrals. Now Mike Wolf is ready to share these strategies and business outlook with you. You're here. You're ready for the journey of business with Mike Wolf.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Journey of Business. I am Mike Wolf. Super excited to be back in the building, taking more questions today from listeners who have emailed me some cool questions that I just am thinking about all the time and really would love to go over with you guys for, 10, 15 minutes and start doing some smaller episodes during the week so we can put out maybe a few episodes a week and, do some fun things like that. I think it's cool to get feedback from listeners and to really kind of touch on things that they're battling and walking through every day. So definitely want to jump into it. I'm glad you're here today. Thanks so much for listening. So first of all, the questions, if you have some that you would like me to answer, you can reach out to me on social at @TheRealMikeWolf, or you can reach out to me via email at mike@thejourneyofbusiness.com. So let's jump into it. It says, hey, Mike, I know you love talking about mindset and you have a great guest on discussing it. How do you go about taking the leap of faith and starting your own business with the right mindset? So first of all, thanks so much for the question. I love talking about mindset. It's no secret. I've taken a few months off from the show recently to just kind of regroup and rededicate my own mindset and, walk through some health things and really get into a good place. So, I'm super excited. I've actually come back with a better mindset, I think, maybe a different mindset, but better, I believe, for where I'm trying to go. So, I think it starts with taking the first step. Depending upon what type of business you're getting into, of course, your mindset has to be super sharp no matter what you are doing. So I believe knowing that you can move the needle in any industry or field that you're going into, job or your own company, whatever it is you're trying to battle, I think, mindset is super key. So moving the needle is obviously an important thing. Focusing on that you aren't going to be perfect out of the gate. It comes down to the old analogy. If you want to be great at, say, like basketball, as an example, I'm not going to sit around and watch videos on how to be great at basketball. You can watch all the greats, you can watch their moves, but, when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, you need to be in the gym working on fundamentals, working on your shot, doing whatever it takes to get better at, if that's your goal. So, you can do that, whether it's in business, whether it's, you can watch, people that you respect in that field, people who have been there and done that, people who have great success. If you want to model or emulate what they're trying to do, yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think it's a good move to kind of check that out. But, when you're forging your own path, you really kind of have to get out there and do it yourself. So I think that's kind of maybe one of the first steps I would probably look at, hyper focusing on, just one thing at first. Set the goal, work towards it every single day. Don't look at steps 4, 5, and 6. Focus on step 1, then jump into 2 and 3, and so on and so forth. I think that is a big deal, because I've made so many mistakes that have taught me some really valuable lessons, especially when it comes to mindset. Your mind's always trying to protect you. It kind of goes down to the old airplane car conversation. I think that's where it's always kind of an interesting mentality. People get nervous to fly. I get nervous to fly sometimes. What happens if the plane crashes? Blah, 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 blah. It's just so much easier to drive and it's safer and so on and so forth. But, at the end of the day, there's so many more car accidents than plane accidents. Sometimes you just have to ignore your brain. Your brain is actually trained to focus on things that don't matter. So I think if you look at it from that perspective, I think that's important. And I think finally, mindset's a long play. We live in this microwave society, where everybody wants it now. They want it their way. If you think about it like this, when you put microwave popcorn in the microwave, obviously you lay it flat, you hit start, you sit there, a few seconds go by and nothing's happening, and you're willing to know that in 2 minutes, you're going to hear popping and it's going to happen. So in 120 seconds, you've got it. Then in about 30 seconds in, you hear the popping, something is happening. Just like this in business, if you're working at something every day, if you just believe it will start popping, if you're putting the work in, it's a long play sometimes, but if you stay diligent and strong and put in the work, the effort, the time that it takes for it to win, I think, it's just inevitable that if you're putting good success and good effort towards something, that usually good things are going to come from it. So, that's kind of where I'm at on that first question. I love mindset. We talk about it. I have a lot of good guests. If you haven't listened to some of the guests that I have in the past few episodes, check them out because we talk about mindset a lot. I think it's really important to have a positive mindset. And I know sometimes when you're not winning in business, it's, a lot easier to have a negative mindset. And, you're just going to have to battle through that. That's just part of the game. And, if you're not in it to lose, you can't lose and win at the same time, but you can win, pretty efficiently, from losing, if that makes sense. So, I would focus on that. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. So thanks for that question. The next question I have here, how do you handle people in your life that are not happy with where you are going because they feel like you're leaving them behind? Interesting. Battled this a little bit in my life, kind of personally, professionally, whatever you want to call it. Once you kind of start, on a certain trajectory, things just seem to kind of fall off that aren't meant to be there. And that's okay. Whether that's, church friends or acquaintances from back in the day or whatever it is, a lot of times that happens. Even family, sometimes can fall off. So I'm such a fan of people like Tyler Perry who speak a lot of, positive things into the world. I listened to him say, and I wrote this down, he spoke one time and I heard him say that, there's people in your life and they're there for a season. They weren't meant to be there always. People come in your life like boosters on a rocket ship. If you watch a rocket go into space, the boosters fall off when you reach a certain altitude. And that some people are just not equipped to handle that altitude that you're going to. So don't be afraid when they fall away or fall off. They aren't bad people. They just couldn't go where you were going and they weren't meant to be there. And that's okay too. If you look at life that way, if you really focus on the things like that, it makes it easier a little bit when relationships fall off. And they happen and it's disappointing sometimes. And people, I think a lot of that comes to expectation. I think, if you really want to be disappointed in someone, put expectations on them, because I think that's the fastest way to, expose cracks in them and expose cracks in your expectations of them. And so, I think that's part of that. So I'd say, do your best to surround yourself with the best people possible, in every season. It's not easy. It can be wildly frustrating and it will cost you friendships and relationships, like I said. So if they're meant to be in your life, they will be. I say it's kind of weird. I've always focused on this kind of, focusing on the root and not the fruit. I heard that a long time ago when I was young, and, its roots are strong, just like a solid relationship and a friendship. Right. But fruit falls off and dies and goes rotten, and if you build your foundation on sand, it'll collapse, it's an old Bible reference, but if you build it on a solid rock, it'll stand firm. So, I think if you really kind of look at relationships in that form, I think it makes it a lot easier to process. Some people just aren't meant to go where you're going, and that's okay. It's hard to accept sometimes, and you got to believe that where you're going is where you're meant to be, and where they're at is where they're supposed to be. So, if you can really focus on that and really get excited about, them doing whatever it is that they do, and just focus on that and, focus on winning and making sure that you're happy with where you are, I think that's the most important thing. So, appreciate that question. Always tough. Relationships are always hard, messy. Doesn't matter really what you're involved in. So last question that I got, how much time should I spend working on my craft and getting better at my goals? So let's break this kind of down a little bit. Experience is huge. So, I look at something a little bit differently. When I'm trying to learn something new, I look at it as like the rule of 100, right? I don't know if you've ever heard this. If you haven't, check it out. It's really interesting. If you spend 100 hours in any field or expertise working on a skill set, that breaks down to about 18 minutes a day. It doesn't matter what it is, 18 minutes a day. You will be 95% better than the world's population at that skill set, at that thing that you are working on. So, like giving up 18 minutes a day to dominate at something, to be in the top 5%, of that field would be really interesting. So like, what would it look like if you gave up an hour a day to work at something you were trying to build or dominate in and have fun in? How much further does that get you ahead of the competition that you're battling? And I think a lot of that is you having to have that discipline. Discipline is something that I talk about a lot. I have a Kobe Bryant reference that I'm going to touch on here in a second because, I listen to him speak so many times about basketball, but really more about mindset and discipline, the Mamba mentality breakdown, So when I really look at somebody trying to get better at something, it's like, how much time are you putting in? How much effort? What's it going to take for you to get where you're trying to go? Is it an hour a day for a year? Can you give that amount of time up? Man, how much further ahead, if at 18 minutes a day, you're at 95%, what's it look like if you're an hour a day? What's it look like if you're 2 hours a day? I mean, put in the work. It's like you put in the work and you get better at something. It's a long play. You're betting on yourself. And it's just really the right thing to do at the end of the day if you're trying to dominate in a field. So, I mentioned Kobe Bryant. At the end of the day, you look yourself in the mirror, and you just ask yourself, did I get better today? This is what he used to say. And I always kind of was like, man, he's dominant at everything he did when it came to basketball. And he just said, if you take small steps every day, it's the process of doing it over and over and over a period of time. It's the process of getting better every day for years and years and years and years that creates the masterpiece. So, are you willing to put in the time? Are you willing to put in the effort? Will you do what it takes to sacrifice not watching Netflix for an hour, not going out to the club, to the parties, to whatever it is for you, whatever your vice is, to escape? Would you be willing to put in that extra hour? I don't know. I mean, some people say they want it. And I mean, I think it really comes down to that at the end of the day. I think discipline is just key. It's how much time and effort are you willing to put in every day to get better? I don't think there's a perfect plan or a time frame that really is going to break that down. It starts with taking just the initial steps, doing what it takes to get there. So, I think when we sit down and we look at mindset and we look at, all of the discipline that it takes and all the people that need to be there to support you, on the last episode, we talked about your spouse or your significant other, being supportive of what you're doing, if they're not a risk taker, so on and so forth. Just having that support system, whether it's friends, whether it's family, whatever it is, just remember not to put so much stock into what everybody else thinks either. I think, if you're betting on yourself and you believe in yourself and you put in the work, like we talked about, I think it really does give you the opportunity to succeed and to dominate in fields that maybe you didn't even think you could. So, maybe it's playing the piano. Maybe it is, good Lord, who knows, wrestling. I don't know, whatever you want to get better at, putting in that time, putting in that effort. I just think it just changes the game. Just knowing people in business, because it's really at the end of the day is a business podcast, but it's a life podcast as well, so whether it's your children and you're focusing on trying to learn something from them or you want to be more in with the times of making sure that where you are is where you want to be. So I really genuinely believe that mindset is key in all of this. I think discipline is key and getting better, man. Think about that. 18 minutes a day could just change your whole life. And we all have 18 minutes in our day, no matter how you want to slice it. It's always there. It's always accessible. And it's usually pretty readily available to you to take that 18 minutes. So whatever it is you're trying to get better at, I'm here. Let me know if I can help in any single way. You can reach me at mike@thejourneyofbusiness.com. You can hit me up on social media at The Real Mike Wolf. If you're looking to do some consulting and stuff like that I can help you with one way or another, you can go to TradeLinkSales.com. And any way I can help, I would love to, man, because I'm really just trying to rededicate myself to putting people out there and adding value in any way possible that I can. So thank you so much for the questions. Please keep them coming. I want to start doing a few episodes a week on here where I can sit down for 10, 15 minutes and really just break things down for you the way I see them in the industry, see them in the market, and kind of go from there. So I appreciate all you for checking us out today on The Journey of Business, and we'll see you next week. Take care.
To continue your journey of business, subscribe to the show wherever you find podcasts or at YouTube. And for more information on consulting inquiries, go to www.tradelinkSales.com.